we go. So we're going to continue with our discussion of the teachings of the Great Way, and particularly the teachings of the Heart Sutra. And the little bit that I want to focus on today is the line, "Form is emptiness." But let's take 2 or 3 steps back so that we're coming in with a full appreciation. So our first presentation on this, we went over how these teachings are not a denial that you have experience, that things are happening, they're very vivid, they catch your attention, they catch your heart, right? You feel like you're looking at your world, you're looking at this screen while I'm talking, and it feels real. And that is how we experience things. It's very vivid and compelling. So there is no denying that. And what gets added in the Heart Sutra is it's not exactly the way it appears. There's something more going on that connects to the radical openness and compassion of the Great Way. So the teachings, you might say, are that experience is vivid and yet open, completely changeable, always fluid, more like a river than a rock. Right? So the rock is solid, permanent in this metaphor, it doesn't change. And the river is flowing and adaptive, and it's constantly changing. So the way things are is more like a river than a rock. So we talked last week about how our perceptions work, and we take our perceptions for granted, and we treat what we perceive as real. For example, I might pick up my cell phone and it feels real. And it's like I'm seeing it, it's a solid object, and I just make it into a thing. And the idea that we were exploring last week is that that whole experience of, remember, experience is vivid, not exactly how it feels. It's happening in a whole coming together of circumstances, like the eye being able to see something that's a physical form and then understand it and appreciate it. And we put a name to it and put it in a category. And there's this whole thing that we call seeing, as if it was a simple my eye and that thing out there, the cell phone. But actually, there's a lot more going on. So that's what we explored last week. And this week, we're taking it a step further with the statement that form is empty. And I'd like to keep it somewhat simple, but you could apply this to any of the senses, right? So things that are external, this was the interesting question, the question at the beginning, like, think of something that is external, that's not you, right? That feels like it's solid and permanent, because that is how the world looks. It looks to me like this cup has a lot of solidity. Right? And my example was things that look solid, and something that I delight in is ice cream. It could have been anything. We had the sun, we had fire, we had, um plumbing in the house, pet cat, cup of coffee, stars in the sky. So we have a lot of things that appear to be outside of you or me. Right? So let's keep it with the bowl of ice cream. Looks like a thing. It looks permanent, yeah, sort of permanent. I mean, it's not there and gone instantly, right? It's less permanent than a mountain and way less permanent than stars in the sky, which might make it a useful example. Right? But I put the bowl of ice cream in front of me. I have my favorite flavor, and I'm experiencing my usual interaction of desire and anticipation and delight, and and then I don't know, I get distracted. Something happens. My sister calls, or my twin brother calls me, or somebody comes to the door, or you know, um, the smoke alarm goes off in the house. Something that's compelling that takes me. It has to be pretty compelling to take me away from ice cream. Something happens, and I come back an hour later, maybe 2 hours, and the ice cream has completely melted into a puddle of what? Cream, sugar, flavor, color, right? But it's no longer ice cream. It's a bowl of something. I don't know what you would call that. But to say that that liquidy, delicious goop is the same thing as ice cream, I think is not exactly true. So there's more happening in the experience of looking at something that is external, that feels solid and real, and yet its changeability demonstrates that it's not that way. One of the propositions of the Heart Sutra is that we go through, most of us, our entire life with a rather simple, one might say naive point of view that the world around us is made up of solid and real things. And we get attached to what we like, and we get attached in a negative way to what we dislike. If you put a bowl of broccoli in front of me, I'm pushing it away. Put a bowl of ice cream in front of me, I'm pulling it towards me. Right? We all have our examples of, and I don't want to get into the broccoli is good, broccoli is bad discussion. It's just an example. But we all have our things that we love, that we're attached to, and things that we don't, we push away. Right? But they feel like things, right? And then we have a whole story about how this form, this visible form of broccoli in front of me is, I have my reaction. I might feel threatened by the broccoli. You might feel charmed. I feel threatened. I want it to go away. Just engage in a political discussion about anything these days. Choose your topic. I'm going to be bold and suggest the current presidential race without choosing sides. I'm going to call them candidate X and candidate Y. And if you like candidate X, and I say candidate X's name, external object, it's a human being, a political party, there's a whole complex reaction to it of I like X. And if I say Y's name, you like X, you don't like Y, you really dislike Y, you have a whole complex reaction. Right? I just, Margaret and I recently gave in our 20-year-old car, which is someone has a leaking roof. When it rains and you get in, it's like getting in the shower. Uh, it was time to, buy a new car. Its book value is about negative $50. It's got 400,000 kilometers. It's 20 years old. I'll try to sell it to somebody. But it was time to buy a new car. Now we have a new car. I walk outside, visible form, feels external. I think it's kind of pretty. I like it. I'm attached to it. I want it to stay exactly the way it is. We all have things like that. So, looking at the visible form and the thing that you either like and you want to keep, or the thing that you dislike that you want to push away, there's a reactivity that is based in the idea that that thing is solid and real. But what the Heart Sutra says is it's not exactly that way. That visible form is shunyata. It is open, radically dynamic, changing, fast or slow, it's still changing, and it won't be there forever. It's full of possibility. So our usual translation of shunyata within community refuge is open, empty, full. Open, changeable, lots of things going on, empty of anything that's permanent, and full of possibility. And so I go out to my car. Maybe I'm in the parking lot of the local supermarket. I caught myself doing this the other day, and I parked it far enough away that there was less chance of it being bumped. The first bump is always a relief because that's past you. But until that happens, there's sort of a like, oh, I'd like it not to get bumped. And then there's the reaction, and then go, it's just a thing. I had a wonderful car when Margaret and I first met, 35 years ago. It was a red sports car. That is long since gone to where cars go when they're done. It's probably now a refrigerator. So they probably have melted it down, taken all the parts out of it, gone to the junkyard, compacted it, put the steel back into some kind of furnace, and remade it into a refrigerator. My beautiful red car, which I even had a name for, is now somebody's refrigerator. So gone. It's empty of something permanent. And my beautiful new car, which we actually have a name for, sooner or later will be gone, right? Empty of anything permanent. Right? And yet, there it is. It's full of possibility. So I think the, transformative power of this, not just a philosophical discussion of, yes, you can look at the stars in the sky and you can have your reaction to something that is very long lived. Who knows how long they've been there? Or our sun, it might be there for another, I don't know, billion years, 500 million, I don't know, some really long time, incomprehensibly long time. But as somebody noted, sooner or later, it will no longer be there. It is like a furnace, the fuel will burn out and it'll go through what happens at the end of stars. It'll be collapse and then maybe it'll, just wink out or become a pulsar or a, black hole or whatever happens to it. It will no longer be as we look at it now. So whether we're talking about the short length of time of a bowl of ice cream or the incomprehensibly long life of stars, right? They all have this impermanent quality. The transformative thing is if you look at your life and the middle way, among its many attributes for people who practice it, is that there's a certain calmness or serenity that begins to develop because you realize that everything is passing. Every form is empty, even the ones you love. So somebody mentioned peace. Even peace is empty. It's not a solid, permanent thing. It's actually a description of a balance between relationships, which are always changing. Or you have, somebody in your family, a parent or a child or a partner that you love, always changing. The other night I was in a discussion with a group of friends, and in one couple, the couple's actually quite old, and their age is just a number, so let's leave it at very old. And the wife in the couple has gone further and further in the last year into dementia, and so she was sitting next to her husband, who everybody in that room has known for many, many years, and saying, well, my husband left me. I'm so happy that my father is here right now. And this happens sometimes in dementia where you forget the immediate relationship and you're remembering something from your distant past. And then as she's thanking the man next to her, pretend like thinking that he's her father when it's actually her husband, she goes on to say really nasty things about her husband. He was no good, he left me, he never could care. And the rest of us, you could just feel the love pouring out of the group towards both of them, because it must be really lonely to feel the way she was expressing, and it must be really lonely and painful to be the husband who obviously cared enough to just sit there and take it and hold the space while his wife said what was going on for her. But that relationship, beloved relationship, right, is not what it was even 5 years ago. So whatever it is, if it's an external thing like a relationship, or if it's an external thing like a cell phone, right, or a cup of coffee, or anything else, it is open, changeable, dynamic, full of possibility, not solid in the way we experience. And I keep trying to come back to where that is transformative is if you live your life from that place. When you find yourself getting hooked into difficult, disturbing emotions, you're really angry and angry in a way that isn't, I have to do something to fix this problem. Like somebody said, the fixed plumbing, the water lines in the house. Well, if the water lines break, you want to fix them. I would. But you know that sooner or later they're going to break again. But you could fix them and then let go of the worry until that happens. Right? So there's that quality. But if you get angry with, let's go back to politics, you're angry about candidate X, and you're going to like rehearse that anger for the rest of your, time that you're alive, well, then that takes you into suffering, into a world of suffering. And the point of the Heart Sutra is to take you across to the other side, across to enlightenment. And the way you cross, one of the ways you cross, is to begin to contemplate, oh, this is all changeable. So I'll try to say it again. Whenever you find yourself disturbed, your mind dragged down, you're sort of feeling under the heavy weight of depression, right? It's useful to look to see, are you holding on to something as solid when it's not that way? And so those are the remarks I have to share. Couldn't really exhaust form is emptiness in this brief offering, but I hope some of that was useful, and I'll look forward to hearing what you think.